All right, we're still waiting for Louisa. We'll let her in as soon as I see that she's here. So I see that there was an explosion coming in from somebody. Let's see where it landed. It looks like Jinhee might have replied to yourself with a new explosion. Okay, that looks good. So I think I remember the recommendation was to lengthen the smoke that happens right here. And I think that looks really good. Are you happy with it?
Yeah, I think it looks better.
Yeah, the only thing that I might recommend here is that it's kind of looking like a snake, right? Instead of a trail of smoke. And you might find it more interesting if you unpaint everything that you've got here and just go through the Toon Boom thing. And the other oddity for this morning is that Toon Boom is not working. And so I'm waiting for a reply from our people. But go ahead and put like another line that crosses over each one of these, and then just paint the parts that are overlapping.
Oh, okay.
And then leave some open spaces, like this line would be open right here. And this line would be open, just to give like the appearance of light and dark.
Okay.
Because I think it's moving okay. I mean, it does kind of look like a snake a little bit, but that's okay. But I think that it'll look less like a snake if you don't paint the whole thing just gray. But the explosion's good, the flash is good. Yeah, that's working good. Okay, let me make a note of that. Perfect. Okay. And then we have Volcano. So Janeska, it looks like you're still missing your lava and your lightning. Maybe they're part of the lava today?
They're part of the lava today, like the scene. Yeah.
Part of the scene. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm going to turn loop on. This one should have loop on. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I would recommend. First of all, your clouds are just kind of jogging back and forth. And if you remember the thing I told you with the set a key. Oops, hold on a second. Clicked on the wrong thing.
Was this also the final, or are we adding more to it this week?
I was hoping that you would have this finalized by today.
Okay.
But
yeah, it's pretty much.
But that's okay. You know, just make adjustments and get it in when you can, because this is important. I want to make sure that this lands on your show reel, your portfolio cleanly. Okay. All right, so there's a couple of things that I want you to address here, and you can either take notes or screenshots or rewatch the video. I don't think that you should have the cloud on the moon like this. It doesn't look correct. I think that what might look better for you is if you draw the moon, right? And you can even give the moon like a little wiggle, like a little nose, you know, just be more illustrative about it. And if you want to put the a cloud back there, then there's a rule in animation and illustration called tangents, and you want to avoid tangents. So you've got like a big fat tangent right here. And what I would recommend is just kind of maybe drawing a wispy cloud that's just kind of trailing off this way.
Okay.
And the moon is bright enough that it obliterates the view of that cloud to the people. And then just kind of fill it in over here. And then just let that cloud be a little bigger, like it's pushing its way through the sky. So make that a little bit more illustrative.
Okay.
I would paint this lava red.
Red.
You know, the little pink thing isn't quite working. Molten rock is going to be really hot.
Okay.
All right, and then you have to repair, and I know you know this just from looking at it, but the little clouds that are down here, they're not moving correctly.
Yeah.
So my suggestion would be is to mimic the push, so the air on this cloud right here is pushing it this way. And you can kind of tell that because the water vapor just kind of tumbles inside the cloud as it moves along, and then it trails behind. So whenever you see a cloud like this, it usually means that it's moving in that direction. What you do on the stage here, and I'm going to just walk you through it because my Toon Boom isn't working correctly, is that you draw this cloud on the stage, and then you go down into the timeline in Toon Boom.
Oh, I'm using Rough Animator.
Oh, I don't think you can do this in Rough Animator then.
Uh-oh.
So, well, the thing that you can do, let me Z that out. The thing that you can do in Rough Animator then is just copy and paste it.
Okay.
So just take this little puppy right here and copy and paste it and move it exactly the same amount. And so that's the thing about the, well, in Flash, there's a thing called motion tween. And a motion tween will give you the exact same distance for every single frame.
Okay.
Or if you move something in Maya and you don't go into your edit curves, it'll give you the exact same timing. And so go in your layout layer in Rough Animator, or you can put a layout in Toon Boom as well. Just give yourself the timing, and then and you could even number these, right? So the idea would be is that if you start the cloud here, that you would want the cloud to come all the way back and around again, and this might be a lot of frames.
Yeah.
If this cloud right here is easily 3 miles in the distance, and if you were going to move it that far, it would just be crazy too much. But if you look at what I've drawn right here, you can see that there's probably 18 little ticks right here, and you're about halfway through the screen. And so continue this backwards and do all the little timings backwards, and then draw a copy and paste a second cloud in the exact same cloud, but just halfway, and then move both of them.
Okay.
So that by the time one's off the screen, it starts on the other. So so the loop would be is that you've got one here, and your screen is like this, and then one halfway, and then as soon as this one is off the screen over here, it'll start again. That's just a little trick.
Okay.
All right, so remember that the distance from the volcano to us here in the foreground if this cloud is 3 or 5 miles away, then this volcano here would be 4 miles away, and this one might be a mile, right? So I think that the idea is that you should have some sort of scale. The idea would be is that if you've got a projectile coming out of here and going into the water, then really kind of say, okay, this is my upper timing, and then go halfway and then quarter, and then mimic those timings over here, but accelerate it. So you can
Okay.
see that I'm speeding it up. And then go back and put your breakdown drawings in there.
Okay.
Put all the breakdown drawings in there. And then this is still not enough.
Mhm.
It still would be moving too fast. So start about right here and then ease into the top of the arc. And then mimic the same timings over here. Maybe you want one more right there. And then test it. And
Okay.
test it on 2s. And then if it's still moving too fast or too slow, then adjust the timings and put more drawings right in here in the arc.
Okay.
All right, and so the idea would be is this. If this volcano is 4 miles away, this is further along the perspective grid, and this is huge.
So to make it
Yep.
smaller.
Well, I think that in order to make it smaller, what you should do is copy everything and move it to a space on the grid that's more like right here.
Okay.
And I think that you should probably make it a little smaller just for argument's sake. I mean, this literally should be over here.
Okay.
Now, have you ever done that thing in perspective where you draw out your grid? So that's just a really rough grid. And when I learned it, it was a raccoon. And so on the grid right here, you draw like the raccoon. You know, he's just sitting there, right? He's up on his hind legs. And he's looking at you with that one evil eye. He's got his striped tail. And so he looks like he's maybe 1.5 feet long, right? But if you draw him right back here, if you draw the same exact raccoon back on the horizon, then he's Godzilla.
Yeah.
Because just of the rules of perspective. How you know, so this would appear to be the most giant single hut ever in the history of perspective. So yeah, see if you can put it here.
Okay.
If you want to copy and paste the same thing, see if it works here. It might work here if you reduce the size just a little bit. So that's the things I saw first. Did you want to take a shot of that?
Yeah, let me take a. Okay, I took it.
Okay. Okay, so remember that what we had talked about was just doing an area flash for the lightning. So, and that's kind of why I was pointing you all towards just doing like a glow behind, because it looks like you flashed the whole frame maybe.
I did.
And I think that works. I think it's fine, but I think it would be better if you just did that little area flash. And so I think I don't know if I pinned one the other night. I was looking at it. Yeah, I think it was this one. So when you see like this example, just of a real flash of lightning, you know, whoever the photographer was must have just been giddy as a clam, right? Oh my God, I got the best photograph ever. You know, there's clouds in the front of it, there's clouds in the back. It's cutting that one cloud right there. That's crazy, right? Well, this lightning flash right here did not obliterate the whole frame like it would if this lightning was really, really close to you. If you squint at this, you can easily see that the flash is just kind of around the core, actually. You see that? Just squint at it. The hot spot is just around that center core. There's a
Yeah.
little bit right here, but it's mostly around the core. So I would recommend just making that around the core. Now you're not going to be able to see this until you paint the background.
Yeah.
And so get the clouds moving correctly. These clouds look like they're moving okay, and I hesitate because I think that you didn't follow it through carefully as you could. I'm not seeing like, I'm going to look for one particular, like this one right here, this outside curve right here. So if it's moving up, I would want to see this curve right here moving into this curve. And so just going one frame at a time, I see it moving a little bit. Are you on 4s with this?
I think I am on 4s.
Oh, well, that's okay. But it doesn't, see, it stays still right there. The next drawing of this one, it's in the same place. And I don't think it goes backwards, but it just moves a little bit and a little bit. and then it flattens out right here. So I'm just looking at this bit. Yeah, I think you just want to be more precise about your outside curves here. You didn't give yourself a lot of room here to do the water splash that I would like to do today. So you might want to adjust the area down here so you have more water to play with. So if you thought, well, you got so you got a little mud bubble, or you've got, you've got a splash, but we didn't do the splash yet. So.
Oh, I thought the splash was included. So I just.
Well, it is, but you did this more like a mud bubble. We haven't, you'll see when we do the splash today.
Okay.
And so you might want to just give yourself more water down here. And one thing that might work is that if you give yourself, let's say you trim the base of this volcano just a little bit right here. And this is okay here. And if you've got like, let's say that your viewer is hiding in a cave, right? So then borrow that idea and say that this cave is more this shape, and then bring the cave over here. So he's hiding with his family because that volcano is about ready to kill him. So get your viewer inside a cave, and then this is okay, and then bring the water really close to it, and then cut it and let it go back over into there. You decide whether you want your little hut to be over here, right? And it might be interesting, because we haven't done fire yet either, that if one of these projectiles, because your projectiles are moving too fast, so you want to slow them down a little bit just because of the scale. If one of the projectiles hits the hut and it catches on fire.
Okay.
Then that way, this gives you the idea to play with this area right here, which is water. And then you can do like another area over here, which is just mud. Or I take that back. Let me erase that. So this would be water here, and then this would be mud. Because the water here is just sitting there, but this is mixed with sand and silt and stuff. So you go water, mud, soil, and then it's still kind of pushing it, because remember that whenever we talk about cinema, you always talk about your cinematic thirds, right? And then you talk about your action safe area in the corners, which is one field in, and then you talk about your title safe, which is another field in. And in the world of cinema, one field equals about 1/12 of the distance, either vertical or horizontal. And so you've literally got an area about 1/6 of the edge of your screen that you always want to be careful of when you're doing composition or motion, whether the motion is live action or animation, it doesn't matter. And so both of these areas to play with here on your layout are really sketches, they're really cutting into that action and safe and title safe area. So you could easily just kind of move things around a little bit, but we'll try to do fire and water today.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Janeska. All right, Isaiah. Sorry, I'm waiting for the Toon Boom people to come back to me. Okay. Loop on. Okay, you got mud bubbles. And this is going to be, this little area right here will be a really great place to play with the water splash that we're going to do. And I'm looking at both at the same time. So did you try my idea here of offsetting the timing of these two little wispy smokes in the background here?
I don't think they're. I don't think I did.
Okay, so and do you know how to do that?
Yes.
So let's let me review that just for 1 second for everyone's sake, because I think it'll make sense if I do it just really iconically. So in your timeline, whether you're working in Rough Animator or Toon Boom or Flash or whatever, I want you to imagine that in the first example of what we did for anything that we were animating, like that was cycling, that this is the first frame and this is the last frame. And let's say that we had something that was cycling for 32 frames. So it just cycles. And the whole idea, what was that? Could you all hear that?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Oh, it's strange. All right, I'll let you know if I have to run away. And so when we take this down to this position here, so you got frame 1 and now 32, and this is frame 64 out here. So now you've got it cycling twice. And so let's just say that we're talking about our main smoke right here, and it's looking good. This one's fine. I think that it might look a little better if you vary the thickness of the shadow a little bit more so that it's a little thicker. All right, so let's say that that's your main smoke and that it is cycling and it's good. And so this is just a copy. This is number 1, and this is the second copy. And let's say, just for the sake of argument here, that these wispy smokes in the background were timed at 32 frames as well. But they're different. And so these two are going to work fine. If you just had it on the timeline, it would be fine. But for this one, you want it to be a different timing. So what you do then over the course of these 64 frames is you slide the first one so that it's in the middle. So that it's right in the middle. So this one goes to here. And then this part right here, which I'll colorize like that, that goes to here. And then you copy and paste this one, which has just got a couple of little dots in there. And that one goes to here. So you copy and paste and put the second one there. Does that make sense to everybody? Just visually, Jinhee, I can see you're looking at it. Does that make sense? Because then, because for argument's sake, this cycling right here is this one. And then this one is that one. And then your audience should never pick up on whether they're cycling or whether they're the exact same animation. All right, I have a couple other suggestions for you. I think the projectiles are interesting. What I would suggest for you is in a lot of the examples, you'll see that these burning embers here, the little ones here, let them trail a little longer. Give them like a longer of a tail. Because right now they're kind of looking like comets. So make them have a longer tail. All right, and then, you know, I would probably go in here and cut out maybe every other one or every third little node on your lava. I think it's moving correctly, but just in order to make sure that it's not like a sawtooth, make it look more random here. The idea would be is that you've got the bottom, which is not moving, and then make it just look a little bit more random. And this is a perfect place because you've got the motion working now, and you've got the timing of it working now, and that's the whole trick. Now the fix is really easy. Now just go take 2 or 3 of them and flatten them out, because then that'll make it look a little, the variety will be a little bit more. Paint this water more blue.
Okay.
Take this to be more blue. And as long as you're at it, I think that everything is looking okay here, but really go in here and make these perfectly straight. Make these perfectly straight lines and play with your variety of shapes just a little bit more. But yeah, go back in and just readdress that so they're perfectly straight. Now you've got a lot of area, a lot of depth to play with right here. And so see if you can get another set of peaks that are a little closer to us. All right, so you've got mud bubbles happening everywhere. And what I would suggest maybe is to take, well, these guys are going to be okay for your water splash. So let's plan on doing a water splash right here. And this one's okay as a mud bubble. But if you put fire right here, if you put our cycling fire right here, it's going to cover up that mud bubble right there. And so this will be a good place to do fires right here. All right, you want to take a screenshot of that?
Yes.
All right, let me know when you got it.
Got it.
Okay. Other than that, it's looking pretty good. Lots of red. So the complementary for red is green. The split complementary is going to be purple and blue. Go back to your color chart. I think the yellow might be hurting your aesthetic here.
Okay.
Go back to your color wheel and readjust your colors. Are you in Toon Boom?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an easy fix, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and you know, this is this is in the wrong position here. So take this cloud right here and drop it behind your main cloud.
Yeah, I just noticed that right now.
All right, and then remember to do, you've got the flash behind there. So that's working pretty well. See if you can do an area flash that's maybe a little bigger on another layer behind it. You know what I mean? So you've got like a, let me look at, yeah, you've got a shape behind the lightning itself, which is working pretty well. And see what it would look like if you do one that's behind it and just a little bigger.
Okay.
Just to punch it a little bit. The reason why I say that is because it's kind of hard to see. So did you paint it perfectly white?
I think it's close to perfectly white.
Well, then playing with the color of the background is going to help.
Yeah.
So more contrast.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Isaiah. Jinhee.
Yep.
Oh, I should turn my loop on. Okay, so this is working pretty good. You could, so Isaiah and Janeska, you see the difference when you draw a lot more of the projectiles and they're moving a little slower. The scale is better. Okay, you got mud bubbles. This is going to be a good place for your water splash over here. So you might want to just remove this little bubble over here.
Okay.
We'll do water splash. All right, so your smoke is moving pretty good. This smoke is great. I like the comparison of the two. That's nice. Yeah, you just got to finish it. That's working.
Yeah, I gotta
pretty
cover
good.
it.
Are you in Toon Boom?
Yeah.
So get your clouds to move by just
Okay.
by using that technique I showed you, just moving an object on the stage. And remember that the clouds in the far background don't have to move at all.
Okay.
But these clouds here should be moving a little bit, and then the one in front should be moving the fastest, but still slow. I remember from that one example that we showed that it was you get a really good, and everyone can do this too, that you get a really good aesthetic when you think about the clouds being really close to the camera. And so the idea would be is if you make the clouds a really irregular shape like this, that means your eye is going to be looking for this shape to animate all the way off the screen and then pause before it comes back in again and animates all the way through the full cycle. And if it's moving very slowly, even if it was on 8s, you might have to copy and paste it 128 times in order for it to look natural. And so if you remember from the example, one of the students found a really good bit of luck to just give an outside curve, a smaller curve, an outside curve, a smaller curve, and see if you can get this kind of repetitive shape to move just from this distance. Do you know what I mean by that? So that you're doing this.
So does it
kind
move
of
all
thing.
the way
So-
off the screen though?
So what happens is it moves from position 1 into position 2, and that's the full cycle.
Oh, okay.
And so if you animate this whole thing here, you're going to need, a little bit over here, and because it's moving this way.
Mhm.
And so what happens is that you just animate it from this position because it's off the stage for sure.
Yeah.
And then you don't need that part. So it's just moving from position 1 into position 2 over the course of, let's say, 128 frames.
Oh,
And
okay.
because it's a repetitive shape, that as soon as it hits the last frame, like 127, right, which would be
Mhm.
right there, then it starts again at frame 1, and it cycles really seamlessly. So in your example up here, you would just have like this kind of shape. And, you know, you don't have to be really graphic like I'm doing it. You can make it a little bit more subtle, but then it'll move. So this is your frame 1, and then this is frame 1 as well. And these distances up here are all the same. So you just move it from frame 1, and then this is frame 1, and then frame 127 is like right there.
Okay.
So that it loops correctly. So remember that all of you could take a little note here about cycling animation. And remember that when we talk about this, you're not going to find this in The Illusion of Life, because Disney animators would always just animate things straight ahead. And so the idea would be is that, let's say that you had a bicycle wheel, and that you wanted this bicycle wheel to cycle indefinitely. And on the bicycle wheel, you had all these spokes. And so what I've done is I've just divided it into 4, and into 8, and into 16 parts. And they're supposed to be equally spaced. This one's a little fat right there. So this is frame 1, right? Now let's say that you wanted the bicycle wheel to move this way. Well, in order to animate this bicycle wheel, all you really need is to get this position number 1 to move to almost the same position over here. And you could do it with just drawing number 1. This is still drawing number 1, drawing number 2, drawing number 3, drawing number 4. You'd only need 4 frames, because this whole thing is moving all at the same time. So in 4 frames on 2s, which is going to equal 8 drawings, you could get this whole wheel to look like it's completely moving counterclockwise, right? That's just the graphic math, right? All right, so this lava is looking okay, but it might be just the loop on Zoom. I'm thinking here. Paint your back, or are you in Toon Boom?
Yeah.
Jinhee?
Mhm.
Put a gradient, put a linear gradient on this background here to go from a darker gray into a lighter gray, and then
Okay.
repaint this lightning so that it's not yellow, make it more white.
White. Okay.
And then we maybe be able to put a fire right here with the smoke trailing off. And then, yeah, you'll use this area here for your water splash.
Yeah.
And you know what, you could reverse this. It might be more interesting if you move this mud bubble, because I think they're all the same mud bubble, right?
They're different drawings, but they look the
They're
same.
different. Okay. Well, just move this one over here and paint this to be mud, and then paint this to be water, so that you have a more of a good stage here to play with the shape of water.
Okay.
Which is a great movie, by the way. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
Guillermo del Toro.
No.
Oh my God, it's so wonderful. It's in my top 10 movies of all time. All right, so you're almost there. It's looking pretty good. You got your notes?
Yes. Thank
All right.
you.
And don't draw clouds like this.
Okay.
You know, everything else is looking okay, and you blew it on the clouds. You know, whenever you're drawing something, just always go out and, you know, if it's not on the board here, you know, clouds are allowed to have whatever shape you want. And so we're just going to tear things apart, right? So these are looking pretty graphic. And if you just like do a really quick little scan of this, a lot of times clouds have a flat bottom. Like look at how many examples
Yeah.
have the clouds have a flat bottom. And I got my start working at Colossal Pictures in 1992, and there were like 4 artists there. That's all they did was clouds. And the reason that they did clouds all the time, and it's not that they were just the cloud animators. It's like, but whenever a shot was live action and they needed to do animated clouds inside the live action composite, they wanted to make sure that it didn't look like a cartoon. And so they were doing like photorealistic clouds on top of live action, and they needed to get it right. And then they would vary their style for whatever the shot looked like. So you can see that there's lots of examples here. You know, this is maybe looking a little graphic. This one has a little outside curves on the bottom here. You know, this is looking very graphic right here. So you would just pick one. And again, I just did an image search, right? You would just pick one that you think you like, but notice how many have flat bottoms.
Yeah, I see.
The same thing, you know, don't ever draw a bad tree. You know what I mean? It's like a pet peeve of mine. Don't ever draw a tree that looks like broccoli. All right, and then give it the squint test. I think that this mountain range right here needs to be a little lighter in color. The rules of atmospheric perspective come into play here. And you should know this. We already go over this, but anything that's in the front is darker, and anything that goes off into the distance is lighter, because there's fog and particles in the air. So when you look at yours, this mountain range here, it's in the distance, so it should be lighter. Follow the rules of atmospheric perspective. It's a main rule in art. All these examples are showing you the exact same thing. Does everyone understand that? Isaiah? Yeah. Janeska? John, can you see that? Madison? You're off camera.
Yeah, no.
So now that I've got your attention, there's also reverse atmospheric perspective. If you want to break the rules of art, it is possible to do it backwards. But you have to be consistent about it. Just pick one or the other. It's going to look more natural if you're using darker and more detailed images stuff up front. But you will see in art reverse atmospheric perspective. But you just have to be careful with all the other elements in your composition.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Jordan.
Yeah, can you refresh the page? I think it should be the one in the comment that I put. Yeah.
You did a revision on top of
I just made some changes, yeah.
All right, so what I was just saying about atmospheric perspective is that if you paint this mountain a little different, a little lighter, and then you've got this mountain range right here in the background, but it's looking like a giant tidal wave.
Those are actually clouds that are like the lighter stuff is the clouds, yeah. It's easier to see when you play it.
Okay, I got the loop on. So I think this lava over here on the left is moving okay. It's moving a little fast. Slow it down.
Okay.
Same thing with this one. Slow it down by half.
Gotcha.
And I think that you would just want to kill the motion on these little spindle lavas, because they're just wiggling around. And you just want to be careful with your eye. Don't just have them wiggling around, because then that looks like they're just wiggling around. So kill all their motion. Just draw it once and give a variety of line thicknesses, so that you might have, well, you know, you could do this one thing where, have you all seen Ed, Ed and Eddie, the cartoon?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not seeing nods from everyone. Janeska, have you seen Ed, and Eddie? So there's a thing in the production of animation called a traceback. It's just whenever you're doing production, T over B means traceback. And so and now I'm looking at this really quickly. Jordan, slow these clouds down. They're
Okay.
moving way too fast. Slow them down by a quarter.
Gotcha.
Okay, so what we do with the traceback is if we want a character to be alive in the shot, but they're just standing there, they're not doing anything, right? If we wanted this character to be alive, then we could get them to blink. We could just take this drawing right here and hold it out for the entire duration of the shot. And then right here on frame 18 and 19, he blinks. That means he's alive. But if we use a traceback and we take this drawing right here, and if we want him to be alive, then we could put him on 4s, or we could put him on 2s, but we're going to trace this drawing back. We're going to trace this exact drawing over and over and over, probably 4 different times. So this is going to be Billy 1, and then Billy 2, and then Billy 3 on the exposure sheet, and Billy 4. And then after that, for the entire duration of the shot, the exposure of that character is just random. So now it becomes 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4, 1. It becomes random. And so what we do is we just take this drawing and as very carefully as we can, we trace all these lines back 4 times, and then we play them randomly. These lines will wiggle. They'll move around just a little bit, just enough to keep this character alive. And if right here, if the character blinks, then all of a sudden you've got, let's say that this shot here is 8 seconds long. And you can do the math about how many frames you need. But for this character, we have just used 4 drawings plus the blink to keep this character alive for a total of 8 seconds. And so you can do the same thing with this lava, is that you could just trace this back 2 or 3 times and copy the object from the stage into the timeline. Remember that if you copy from the timeline, you're going to end up creating symbols, and you don't want to do that. So just copy the elements from the stage a couple of different times just to keep those lava bits alive. All right, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I'm doing that right now. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take issue with your orange color and then the red on top of it. And then you've got it repeated 4 times. I don't think that's as natural as you can get it. So I think that you might want to just try removing this mud bubble right here anyway. And we're going to do the water splash right there.
Okay.
And you're going to need fire. Your smoke is looking good. Your lightning is looking good. Slow the clouds down. And do the trace back on this part of the lava. And then just like I recommended for Isaiah, now that the lava is working okay, now go back in and flatten out a couple of random outside curves just so that it looks more random. Okay. All right. Other than that, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, you got a nice little glow back there. Are you in Toon Boom?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I wish I could be in Toon Boom today. People have gotten back to me. All right, let me do that for this guy so that he can help me. These people get back to you so fast. How about that? We'll see if we can get it fixed before the end of class, right? All right. All right, so that's starting. You got a really good start there, Jordan. Brush it up. All right, John.
Yes.
Smoke is okay. Lightning is okay. The smoke back here is okay. Projectiles, okay. Lava. Mud, okay. Lightning. Okay, this is looking pretty good here. We'll do fire and water for this. So the only thing that I can really see here is a recommendation for the amount of detail. And so in this area right here, give yourself some more detail because it's right up into the camera, right? Give yourself a little bit of a ridge right here, a little bits of stone and rock, right? A really thick line right here. Make this line just really thick as you can possibly get it. You know, let me do that better for you. Just because I want to make that point.
I think I get that.
You get the point?
Yeah.
Because it's right up in the camera. So this line here can just be really, really, really thick. And this line can be thick too. Really, really thick. And then give more detail here, almost to the point where you can see like this scraggly little tree. It used to be a beautiful tree, but now it's just like a burned out stump, right? And then give yourself like another mountain range here. And then another one over here. And paint this atmospherically, make this a little dark. And then, are you in Toon Boom?
No, rough animator.
Rough Animator. Well, I think you can do gradients in Rough Animator. See if you can do a linear gradient on your background to go from dark to light.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, and the green that I just drew right there is killing it. Yeah, but it's looking pretty good. See if you can get a highlight and shadow on your smoke.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you, John and Madison. I was wishing I'd see if you got back to me right away. All right. All right. So Madison, I think everything is looking pretty good here. You know, now that you look at it, you're almost suspicious that these giant rocks coming out of the volcano are maybe there's too many of them.
Okay.
So, or that they're all the same kind of size. So see if you can take the one on the left and the one on the right. So you see where my mouse is? This one?
Yeah.
And that one, and make them smaller. And then, remember, you're gonna find it to be a lot more interesting if you do if you do the other projectiles, these guys.
Yeah, I was trying it and I just.
It's going to look so much better if you get some of this in there. All right, so you're going to get yelled at. And what are you going to get yelled at about? I'm just going to check my list here. So you're in animation, and in animation you should be studying composition and all the aspects of art. You're not allowed to do this. You know, you're not allowed to put the sun in the upper corner like that. As soon as you go from kindergarten to first grade, you're not allowed to do this. So what I would recommend is maybe putting a couple of clouds back here. So you get some, and maybe your clouds aren't moving, right? So you get one cloud here and then another here. And then by the time it gets back here, these clouds are breaking up a little bit. And so maybe there's just one over here. And the way I'm drawing it right now, these clouds right here could be moving from this position over to here, and that would complete your cycle. And then if you were clever about it, you could get these cloud shapes to move to the right, because that's the way your smoke is moving, right? So this one would be moving a little faster than this one. And then just to get the idea that the sun was up here is to do a radial gradient on the background.
Mhm.
So don't draw the sun, just give yourself a radial gradient in the background that shows up just in this area right here, where the sky is going to go from a little darker or a little lighter here to a little darker over here. So try a radial gradient. And then when you do that, remember that if the center point of the radial gradient is here, what that literally means is that you're going to need a piece of art that's this big. And you can do that in Toon Boom, but you can't do that in Rough Animator as cleanly. You'd have to kind of fudge it. And you can fudge this by looking at the center point for the gradient here and the exterior point of the gradient here. And you can emulate a radial gradient just by making a linear gradient at about 45-degree angle. So you would place a piece of art that looks like this over your stage, and you just do a linear gradient that goes from lighter to darker that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But look what I've done to your drawing. I've killed your drawing. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
All right. Like I said to all of you, I think that now it's time to go in and flatten out a couple of the curves on the lava. And then for all of you, remember that it's going to look like lava a little more if you paint it a little brighter red.
Okay.
And then give yourself an area on your stage here where we can turn one of these little bits, these little bubbles, into a water splash. And then another area where we can do fire.
Okay.
And then remember your atmospheric perspective. So you've got a little darker volcano going into green. Give yourself a couple other mountain ranges just to dress it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so that looks good. Hands for everybody, please. Yay! All right, let me get out of this. Let me stop this. Let me see if Toon Boom got back to me. Not yet. I swear to all the gods put together that he will get back to me and fix this before the end of the class. I just know it. All right, so let's do this. Let's take a short break. Let's take 10 minutes, and when we come back, I'm going to show you fire and water. Okay, how's that sound? 10 minutes. Take a break. I'm going to do a demonstration. I'm going to just check our class for a second. Let's go back to discussion. Okay. So we still need to catch up and do this tornado. And we still need to do water, and we still need to do fire. So we're ahead and behind at the same time. So, you know, we are a couple of weeks behind on the tornado here. And so I'm just kind of thinking right now, the easiest way to do this. I have a couple of demos for you. You've seen some of the examples of the tornadoes and the fire and the water. I don't think we have time. I don't have time to do all three of these demos. So let me get back into rough animator. I am going to do an executive decision here. Let's talk about the tornadoes, and then we can do water and fire next week. So let's talk about the tornado. Let's get caught up on the tornado. So not to be distracting or anything, but you all have a really good idea of what to do to finish your volcano. And it is a major thing. And I think that what you want to do here, like I said before, is to get the volcano, the tornado, and your final working, at least those 3 spots, so that you can submit them to the spring show. And in the past, I believe there was like this thing that I could do where I could click on, let me just show you. So we were doing Volcano today, week 9. And there was a thing here where I think you could click on it, and they might have removed it. I think they might have removed it. There was a little button that said submit for the spring show that the teachers could see. And it wasn't working. all last year and the year before, I was clicking on that button like crazy. I was under this expectations that I had submitted over 50 or 60 things just by clicking the button. And in fact, nothing was submitted. So I believe you have to submit yourself. I believe you have to go through that process. And remember that that's not until May, but you should do that. It's a good thing, especially if you're competing and you win an award there. All right, so let's just get caught up with doing the tornadoes, and let's just do the same thing that we did before. Let's go to our Pinterest board. Let's look at what the tornadoes look like, and you can see the big blue one right there. That's generally the one that I like to start with. And this is a good one here, just very character oriented. For this one here, I think that it would be really interesting to have the heads of that character stationary, and then this bit down here swirling around. You'd have to figure out what it looked like between the intersection of the motion and then the stuff that was not swirling around. Let's continue to find a good tornado. So this one's pretty good. I like this. It's got an opposite depth to it, where normally a tornado is skinnier and faster towards the ground plane than it is up in the sky. So this one's a little opposite. I think that and again, you should be able to see this board, but this is kind of what we're looking for here. This one, and hey, it's not behaving itself. And this one is good too, although it's not moving. So I could just leave it sit right there. Remember that on the main board for me, that this blue one is one of the ones that I really like. So having said that, let me just find that one, because there's timing in it that really works pretty well. And if I remember correctly, it is a good way down the board here. So just California brown bear with me for just a moment. All right. This one's good. The little GIF that's moving right here, that one's really nice. See the one I'm looking at, the blue and white one here? And it's cycling, if I guessed the amount of frames, it would be 32 frames. I think you could get that one working. I'm going to open this in a new tab. Hold on a second. Why is this not working? All right, I'm going to go past that one just for a second. And it's showing up again right here, just as a still frame. And this one's good too. I like this. This one is good, but let's find the blue one. It's probably one of the first things I pinned on the board. So this one's good. Internet connection is iffy right now. Geez, I haven't seen my internet this bad in a while. Give this one more second here and I'm going to move away from it. All right, there we go. There's this one right there. So I like this one because of the level of details. I like it that it's blue. I like it because that's just a different color. I like it because it's simple, it's repeating, it's cycling. There's the swirling clouds in the middle and on the bottom and on the top. There is debris, there are particles. It's simple, and there's probably only 32 frames total. It looks like it might be on 2s or 3s. There's lots of very interesting shapes in there, and it's pretty doable. All right, so I'm just going to leave that sit there. All right, this guy from Toon Boom wants to do a team viewer thing, and I don't think I could do team viewer and Zoom at the same time, so I'm going to let that sit there for just a little while, and I'm going to go back to my rough animator. All right, so in order to pull this off, what we're going to do is I'm just going to lay this out. Remember, I prefer doing this in Toon Boom. Is I'm going to give myself a new layer here, and in this layer here, I'm just going to call this my layout layer, and I just want to plot this out. So if I look at the composition here, I can see that the horizon is really far pushed down. So I'm going to stay in blue, and I'm just going to give myself a horizon. I'm going to give myself a singular vanishing point. I'm going to just give myself my grid. And I don't have the option to hit the shift key. So all of a sudden I've got this wanky thing there. That's fine. And more importantly, I'm going to give myself a grid up in the sky. And now these are always a little challenging to draw because you're going from center to upper left. We're gonna do it. And you'll see why this is important here in just a moment. All right, so then I want my horizontal grid as well. And remember that when you do this, each one of these things should look like it's a square. Okie dokie. All right, so that's good right there. This is my layout, so I can do whatever I want right here. I can turn it off. So I'm going to use a darker blue. And if I look at my example, there's a contact point. It doesn't have to be right in the center. So I'm just going to put the contact point right here. And I can see that there's another contact point up in the atmosphere here. You can see that the cone, the conical shape, is not a perfect cone. It's got a little wiggle to it. So I'm just gonna, well, the first thing I'm gonna do is I wanna figure out what this upper circle looks like. So I'm gonna pull from my grid and I'm gonna give myself what should be an ideal circle. And in that circle, I'm just gonna go right across and I'm gonna do to the vanishing point. And so you should know how to set up your a circle in perspective. You should know how to do that. And so this right here is just me sketching out my circle in perspective. Once I've got this in place, remember that somewhere around here, that circle is going to become a perfectly flat shape, so that any of the circles down here are going to look a little bit more oval. They're not going to be quite as circular. A circle right here is going to look flatter. A circle down here is going to have a little bit of this perspective on it. So does everyone understand that? Right? So, and I'm just going to draw this in here, just plotting this out. So, and if I were to have the top of the tornado really close up here, it would be more circular. So that when I start to connect these, you have to abide by the rules of perspective or it's not going to look correct. All right, so I'm just giving myself, I like this inside curve here, which becomes an outside curve over here, and the such. So I'm going to reverse this curve like this. All right, so in the past, what I have done is I've had students actually busy themselves with getting the tornado to move along this plane, and it just took way too long. So one of the reasons why I like this one is that it's stationary, it doesn't move around. And so what we're going to do is you're just going to have this cycling in place. And I'll explain the timing here in just a moment. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the core shape. The core shape is moving around just a little bit. You can see that there's just a little bit of motion to the left and to the right. So if you wanted to figure out what this is going to be, the upper atmosphere doesn't really change too much. The contact point on the ground doesn't really change that much. It's this middle shape that changes. And so quite literally, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be drawing the little bits of clouds that will give your eye the apparent motion. Like, look at this white one right here. See it? Around and around and around and around. See it? That's what gives the motion. And so all you need to do is kind of say, all right, the blue one is going to be my main key, but I don't need to really move too much. You can see that the exterior curves kind of really basically stay the same. So you're only going to be moving the core shape from the blue into the red. All right, so the blue and the red upper M spheric circles are right on top of each other, and the bottom contact point is in the same place as well. So all you really need to do is I'm moving the top part here to the left a little bit, and the middle part to the right a little bit, and the lower part to the right a little bit. And all you're going to do is over the course of your frames is animate it going from this line right here, going from this position into this position, and then coming back again. So you're only going to need the lines to wiggle from, like I said, from the blue into the red and then back again. So you're only going to need to do that kind of motion. Does everyone understand what I'm doing? Ask me right now, because all I'm going to be doing is animating the blue line into the red, just like that, and back again. So I'm only going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 drawings. So again, the blue line, this part right here is going to move into the red halfway, and then a quarter, and then back again. So it's going to go from drawing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The blue line is going to move from here, drawing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the red, 6, 7, and 8, and back again. I'll do this one too, so it's super clear. The blue is going into the red. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's all I need to do. All right. And so this is my layout. This is good here. I'm going to pull. I can see that there's a main cloud right here. And so I'm going to switch to a different color. All right. So I want a main cloud to be moving around the core in this perspective right here. So once again, I'm just going to draw my circle. I'm going to get that circle in perspective so I know how the clouds are moving. And I'm just going to stop, and I'm going to give a darker green because I want to just maybe figure out which way this is moving. So this guy's moving counterclockwise. No, I lied. This is moving clockwise, which is fine. Normally, tornadoes move counterclockwise because that's the way low pressure zones work, but this is fine. This is moving clockwise. So with this darker green, I'm going to just kind of lay out this first cloud, and I'm going to like look at the shapes. They're really graphic. They're not really fluffy, beautiful clouds. They have like a little graphic edge to them. So I'm going to figure out what that looks like. And I was going to put that one right there, and I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to see that there's a little one right here. It's skinny and it goes round in perspective. So I'm just going to put that one right there. I'm going to look at their white. So I'm going to change the color. And I can see that there's a shape up here that's moving. And right about here, I don't need to draw my grid, my perspective grid anymore, because I can just kind of in between it. So I'm looking at this white shape right there. It's got a, it's moving, it's thicker. It's got a higher contrast. And it's moving about like that. All right, then I can see that there's some shapes out here that are moving. I can see that there's some shapes out here that are moving. Around the middle, I can see that there are shapes here that are moving. And they're skinnier. And I can see that there's a couple of little ones right here that are really flat. That's fine. I can see that there's some debris coming up. I can see that there's clouds that are moving here. I can see that there's some clouds moving down here. I can see that there's upper atmospheric clouds that are moving up here that are moving a little slower. I can see that there's clouds back here that are even moving. All right, so you can see that I'm just kind of using this as inspiration here, right? I can see that there's some clouds that are moving right here. All right, is everyone okay? You can kind of guess what we're going to do. All right, so on this layout right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself another layout, but on a layer on top of it, because I want to, this is going to be layout 2. And the reason why I want layout 2, because I'm going to draw a little diagram here about how this works, but I don't want it to override my aesthetics in the layout here. I'm just going to do it right here. If I was doing this in Toon Boom, I would draw off the stage, but you can't do that in Rough Animator. So I'm just going to do it right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my camera and I'm going to place my camera looking straight down the tornado. And so what that camera view here is that it's looking straight down the tornado. So I'm just going to draw a square. I'm going to find the middle of the square. I'm going to give myself a relatively perfect circle. Okay, so this is the center. What's actually going on here is that these clouds on the main layout, I'm just going to draw a directional arrow. They are moving clockwise. So I'm going to put a little note here, clockwise. Everything is moving clockwise. These guys down here are moving this way. They are moving clockwise. These guys here are moving this way and around. So on this diagram here, I'm going to translate that to this layout too. They are moving this way. Well, the bottom ones are moving this way. The top ones are moving the same basic way. So let's just stick with this. Now, this is funny because clockwise here translates to counterclockwise down here in your camera view. Does everyone see that? So that when I'm up in the upper atmosphere here, these clouds are moving clockwise, they're moving that way. And then when you pass the horizon point, they actually move counterclockwise down here. But that's just the way it works with perspective. So let's just use this one right here for our basic timing. So what I'm going to do is this is divided up into 8 natural shapes as it is anyway. And so let's just call this shape number 1, 2. Actually, let's put this on 2. So let's call this 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15. Just to remind ourselves that we're starting on 2s. We might go on 4s. The upper atmospheric clouds could certainly be on 8s. All right, just like that bicycle wheel we talked about earlier, we're going to do the same thing here, but with the clouds. So if these are the spokes of the bicycle wheel, if I needed to do an in-between, I could go like this and say, if I needed those in-betweens right there, which I probably won't, all we need to do is get this key, let's just start with here, going from key position 1 into key position 3, and then the whole thing will animate it. But the problem is that this cloud right here, let's just pick this green one, the first that we drew right here. So this cloud right here on our map right here is basically our arrow right here. And let's just kind of turn our arrow into the cloud just so that we can see it. So what we've got to do is we've got to draw this cloud, and I'm just going to color it in a little bit so we can see the contrast. All we need to do is animate this particular cloud, 8 different drawings going around the tornado. So we draw it in the first position, and then I'm going to switch colors, and now it's going to move this distance. So now it's going to move right on top of itself. It's going to move to this position right here. All right, does everyone understand? I know it's like hard to see right there, but basically it's moving this distance. The head of the cloud and the tail of the cloud are moving counterclockwise that distance. So that by the time we get to drawing number 9, it's out here. It's the same size relatively, but now it's back over here. So this is drawing number 9. We only need to draw 8 of these. Now, the reason that I'm using this diagram here is because you could very easily animate this shape going counterclockwise with 8 different drawings all the way around it. In drawing 13, that same cloud is going to be over here. And remember that every time you draw the head of the cloud or the tail of the cloud, they are going to conform to this graphic. They're going to be moving about that far. So once again, this is cloud position 13. Now, the reason that I do this is because our camera is actually right here. And for drawing number 9, for this little piece here, we might not even see this cloud right here for drawing number 9. Because look, if our camera is looking at the tornado, it's not going to see the head or the tail of drawing number 9. If drawing number 7 is about right here, you know, something like that, then we'll see just the tail of it. See, our camera is going to see just the tail of it. In drawing number 5, which is going to be about right here, we will see most of it, and we'll see it a little bit in perspective. So you see what I'm doing here, everybody? Drawing number 11 is going to be like right here. Drawing number 15 is going to be like right here. All right, does everyone understand that? Ask me questions like right now if you don't understand. This is the top view right here. This is the top view, and we're just looking at this little bit of cloud right here. We're just looking at this little cloud right there. And so this is our map almost. This right here is just telling us how the clouds move and what sort of timing that they have. If a cloud is going to be in the center, like this one right here, that one's going to be represented by a shape like this. And we're going to only need 8 drawings. So this is drawing number 1, and then this ends up becoming drawing number 2. And then this ends up becoming drawing number 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. So everyone understand that? So all of this only needs 8 drawings. But you're going to use this map here to figure out where all these little pieces of smoke go on your layout. All right, so the first thing that you need to do is let's give ourselves this layer here, background. I think the layout is going to drive everything. So let's give ourselves a total of 16 frames. We're just going to be on 2s. And we're going to say we're going to add a layer. And this is going to be, where did that layer go? Add an empty layer. All right, there we go. So this layer 4, we want to be on top. So we're going to move it on top of our layout. And we're just going to draw the first thing we're going to do is this is going to be our core. So the core, I'm just going to draw, actually, I'm going to take my layout transparency down, layout 2 transparency down so I don't see it. All right, we're going to draw on the core. And so we need to animate the core first. If we want to stay with this blue color, all I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out the core. So right here, I'm going to put core rough because I just need to get the motion working. So drawing number 1 with my pencil, this rough blue color, I'm just going to copy this line right here from the layout. And you might choose to work a little cleaner so that you don't have to clean it up. And I'm going to work a little cleaner so that you can understand what I'm doing. All right, so that's just drawing number 1. Let's put it on 2s. Let's add a drawing. All right, so now we're going to do this second position. We're going to go, it's going from here. So this position is going here. It's going to catch up to the contact point on the ground. And it's moving just about a 1/16 of an inch to the right. And then these two lines cross each other. And here it's moving a 1/16 of an inch to the left. And it catches up to the same shape that we had on drawing number 1. So this is just a trace back. All right, so now it's going from blue into red on the drawing. And so we're just going to move it about a 1/16 inch to the left. These two lines are going to cross over right at that point, and they're moving a 1/16 inch to the right. Now they're moving a 1/16 blue into red. They're moving this way. And then these two catch up to themselves like that. Another drawing. And I'm going to turn my onion skin on just a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go about halfway here. Lines cross over, right down the middle. Lines cross over, right down the middle. And the contact point stays the same. Drawing after. All right, onion skin's on. So let's just see what we've got. The line is going from here to here to here. So now it's going into this position. So for this drawing here, it's moving here. And it's almost reaching the key position in the middle. Contact point stays the same. Contact point in the sky stays the same. Sorry, that's a little scrappy line right there. All right, so now this one is the other key. So this drawing right here is, we're going from our, I'm going to turn this off for just a second. So we're going from our blue drawing into the red drawing. That's the main motion. So for this drawing right here, all we want to do is copy our, hey, oh, I'm sorry. We want to, now we're going to just do our second key, the extreme key position, which was the red position. All right, now you might have guessed how the easiest way to do this. And that is to get these key positions working here first. And what we're going to do is we're just going to see if it's working by looping just the first 4 drawings. And if they're working, it's going to look a little funny, but let's see if it's working. So you can see how it's working. Everything's moving correctly, right? Oh, something's not moving right here, so let's fix it. So what we're following right here is this bottom line right here. And I'm going to zoom into it so we can see what we're doing. So just remember, we're going from the blue into the red. So there's something wrong with this line. So with my eraser, I'm going to go to the next drawing, and it's moving right. It's moving correctly. It's moving incorrectly right here. And that one's looking correct. So once again, now with our pencil, with the blue line, it's fine. So we're gonna, this line's moving here. Next drawing, here. Next drawing, here, that's fine. This one was the one that was an issue. This is fixed, so we're moving this position here. And then the last drawing is here. So that was only one little bit of line that was moving incorrectly that threw off our animation. All right, see how it's moving? Everyone okay? All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go back to my layout, and I'm going to draw another little key for you here. So with a darker pencil, we're going to do drawing 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So these are our main keys. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I put 11 on top of 7. I put 13 on top of 5 and 15 on top of 13. And all I need to do to go backwards is take drawing number 7 and copy it into the 11 position. Drawing number 5 and copy it into the 13 position. Drawing 3 and copy it in the 13 position. I don't need to redraw everything. So with this little key right here, I'm going to go here. I'm wondering why this is graphically not correct. Drawing 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Oh, I see it. It's missing a little hash mark right there. All right, so this is drawing number 9. On drawing number 11, I need to copy drawing number 7. So on drawing number 7, I'm going to zoom back out here. I'm going to take my selection tool. I'm just going to copy all of this. Remember, it's a funky thing here in Rough Animator. Copy it. I'm going to go here and say add another drawing and paste it. All right, now I'm going to go back to this drawing here. So that was drawing 11. I'm going to go back to drawing number 5. Make sure you're on drawing 5 with the selection tool, copy it. Now go here, add another drawing, paste it. Now go back to drawing number 2, copy this little puppy, copy it, add a drawing, and paste it, and deselect, and test your animation. And see if it looks anything like this. You know, it's got the motion is moving correctly. It's rough. I still need to fix it. It's on 2s. There's a lot of like motion in there, but I think that that's fine. You can pick whether you want this to be on 3s to move it a little slower, right? So we've got that main motion of the core. And I think that what's important is that the top is moving to the left first and into the right first, and the bottom is moving to the left. So you got two things counteracting each other in the motion. All right, everyone okay? All right, so that's the rough core. I think that I would like to, fix it, but fixing it could mean that I'm just going to put like a color fill on it and maybe make it a glow. But let's get the clouds moving so you can see what those look like. So, oh, hold on a second. So this is just going to be a cloud rough. I'm going to say CLR for rough. And rough animator doesn't like to play very well sometimes. All right, so this is my cloud, and I'm just going to do this green one first. So we're just going to copy from the layout. And I'm going to move this over so I can follow the key, because that's this one. All right, so that's drawing one. We're going to keep this on 2s as well. And now we're going to follow the key. So it moves about this distance right here. So we're going to take this one and move it just about like that. We're going to try to keep it the same basic size and shape. And the tail is going to be like that. And again, this is rough, so we'll clean it up later. All right, now we're doing drawing 3. So it's going into this position here. And you can see that the key turned red. So we're going to draw this position. It's kind of curling around a little bit. That. All right, add a drawing after. All right, now we're drawing number 7, which is back here. So we're going to draw just the tail of it moving behind it. So all we need to draw maybe is about that much. And I'm going to end it right at the core. All right, now I'm going to add another drawing back here. Now this is the drawing we might not see. Remember we said we might not see drawing 9. We might be able to get just the tail of it back there. And we might be able to see just the head because it's skinnier right here. The core of the tornado is a little skinnier. All right, so now we're going to have it come out here. And that's all we're going to see is just that little bit. And this one, we're going to see it moving just about this far, just about like that. And I'm just roughing it in, kind of following the pattern of the core right there. And then the last one is just the catch-up drawing between the red one we just drew and the keyframe from our layout. So all we need is about that much. And just kind of follow it back to the core and see how it looks. So this becomes really important in order to see how it's moving around there, right? And we go back here and it's like, oh, that's how it works. So now we need to repeat this for everything on the layout. So on this rough layer right here, let's pick a different color. Let's do like one of these guys right here. And we'll keep them on the same timing. Let's just do this guy first. And I'm gonna caution you because you don't want all of these clouds to be moving around the center core on the same sense of timing. So let's change it. On this one, let's pretend that this piece is already over here. So right here, we're drawing number 5. I'm going to go to the next keyframe. And now remember, on drawing number 5, all we saw was the tail end of it a little bit. And then the next drawing, it's going to be drawing 9. That it's completely hidden back there. Oops, I went the wrong way. So it's completely hidden on drawing position number 5. It's completely hidden. On the next drawing, we might see the little head of it coming out. On the next drawing here, we might see a little bit more of it. On the next drawing, we'll see it moving here. That is our main key from the layout. On this position, it's going to move right here. And then we don't have this position, so we have to make sure that this is going to move into this position, which is fine. So let's test it. All right, see how I did that? All right, so now let's do another one. oh, I just changed the name of this. This is cloud. Oh, I don't like rough animator sometimes. Cloud rough. It kind of has a mind of its own. This was written for the PC and I'm on a Mac right now. All right, so now let's do this guy right here. Let's use a green color. Let's use a yellow-green color so we can keep it in mind. Let's do this one right here, and we'll start it at position 11. So in position 11, we see just the head of it. And I'm going to go to the next drawing. And remember, we're off layout now, so you got to just make sure you're following it correctly. So now we're drawing position number 13. And now position number 15, which is this position, and then position number 17, and then position number, I'm sorry, that would be drawing number 1. This is drawing number 3, and then drawing number 5, and drawing number 9, we don't see it. And then drawing number 11, we might not see it either. So now we're just going to look at this piece right here. All right, see how we did that? You want to start the clouds in different positions. Let's do a different color, orange. And let's do that. Let's pick this one right here. But we're not going to pick this position. We're going to pick the 7 position. So for the 7 position, this cloud right here is already over here somewhere. So in the orange, we're just going to draw this one. And again, it's going around the back. So let's go to the next drawing. And the next drawing we see maybe, and stay in perspective, watch your grid. We just see it moving about this much. The next drawing, we see maybe the tail of it. The next drawing, we don't see it at all. It's small enough that in this drawing, we don't see it at all. In this drawing, we don't see it at all. In this drawing, we see maybe it coming right here into its key position. And in this drawing here, we see it moving about right here. And let's see, I think it's going to jump a little bit. Yeah, it jumps a little bit, but that's okay. We get the apparent motion. So on this one, in order to adjust it, I can make this a little longer. And on the last drawing, I can make this a little longer too, so that it's just a little smoother right there. All right, so you can see that you've got different timings going. So let's do this one right here, and we'll start that one on drawing number 3 with a hot pink. So right here, and again, I'm always starting on drawing 1, but I'm using different positions from the key, and I'm drawing this cloud right here. And we're going to draw it moving around. So it's on position number 3. So it's moving about like this, and it's a little bit more substantial. So remember that in each position, it's going to move about that far, right? So this one, it's moving like about like this. That's position number 3. It's probably got a little narrow right there. Next drawing right here, it's moving about like this. And it's interfering with the green one that I drew. So, you know, we're glad we're on the rough layer. On this drawing right here, now it's drawing 7. We might see just a little bit of it. And then on drawing 9, we don't see it at all. On drawing number 11, we might see it coming out. Remember, we're drawing this, so we have to stay in perspective. On this drawing here, we're going to see it coming up. On this drawing here, we're going to see it coming up and crossing over. On this drawing here, we see it come up over here. And on the first drawing, it should catch up. Let's see if it animates. And it looks like it's in the same timing as this one. And it is, see that, the brown one and the pink one. So let's get a shape right here that's not on our layout right here. On our layout, we don't see that there's a bit of cloud that's right here. So let's get a bit of cloud that is in the number 15 position with a different color so we can see it. Let's pick some blue right here. That's fine. And so keep in mind, we just do this one cloud at a time or you'll get really confused. So just get, we're going to put a cloud in either the 1 position or the 15 position. We're going to put it right here. Again, you're following the grid on the perspective. So this one's just going to be right there. And then the next drawing, it's going to move about that far. This drawing, oh, hold on a second. Yeah, this drawing is going to be about right there. This drawing, we might see the tail end of it. This drawing would technically be our 9. We don't see it at all. This drawing, we might see the little head of it. Let's just delay that one to this drawing and see if we can pull this off. And let's see if we can just get that one to move around just by itself. So we only needed a few drawings to get that blue one working. All right, so now let's do a couple more right here. Let's use this deep maroon color here. All right, so on this layout, we can see that we need a position right here. So we're going to pick position 13. We're going to get a little bit of cloud that's going to be right here. On this drawing here, it's going to move about like that. It's the skinnier one. On this position, it just moves like this. On this one, it moves over to here. And then by the time you get to these little details, you realize you've got yourself into a sort of rhythm. You only need to draw the thing going around the core, the cloud coming around the core for 8 different keys. Oh, hold on a second. Okay, so let's do a smoky cloud on the bottom down here. So let's get one of these guys moving and we'll pick just the first position or first main key position here. So what I'm going to do is just draw this puppy right here. And then, oh, I'm sorry. Well, that's fine. We can start it on this drawing here. But the problem is we won't be able to see the onion skin. So let's go to drawing number 1 and just like do it really quickly. So we can keep it in our mind's eye. And remember too that these are clouds so that they're allowed to change shape just a little bit. It's amorphous. There's dust and debris in there. And we are allowed to just play around with the idea that they should be in the same position, but they don't and shouldn't be the same shape. You get a little thinner back over there into the distance. And just hook them up. Now you got one more drawing to go from here to the one you just, oh, it's already there. So let's go. Let's see if that works. All right, you see that? Okay, let's do one in the upper atmosphere. Again, we're just using the same rough layer. So I'm going to come back out to 100% here. And let's do one of these up here. And we'll start on drawing 1 position. We'll use the same gray. And so for this one, it's going to be a long, spindly cloud like this. And again, this one's going that way now. So now I come to here. So now it's going to move about the same distance. So just get it coming up around. Next drawing. It's coming up and around. We're going to see a lot more of this one than the other ones just because of the distance away from the core. Again, it's rough, and I'm just reminding myself that I want some interesting shapes in there. All right, everyone see how this is working? Everyone okay? All right, so one of the things that you could do here is on this core rough layer here, is that you can start breaking it apart and you can start adding in like what you might consider interior shapes. So on this core rough right here, I'm just gonna add like a little shape like this, just on the front part of the core. So this is the core rough layer, and I'm just gonna add that shape here. And this is like a highlight. And so right here on this next drawing, it's just gonna disappear. We're just gonna see the tail end of it. And we won't see it again. We won't see it again until it comes back around. So watch. We only did just see, just that little bit right there. And so I'm gonna go to frame number 1 again on the core rough and draw one that's over here in this position. And then on the next drawing, I might be able to see just the little tail of it. And then this one, I won't see it. This one, I won't see it. This one, I won't see it. This one, I might see just the little nose of it coming around. This one, I might see it moving right here. This one, I might see it moving right there. And if I draw this one, it might go around twice. Watch this little piece right here. See how it looks like it's going around twice right there? That's fine. You can make mistakes with this because you're allowed. All right, so now we're more level here. So let's just draw a little highlight right there. And then it moves around. And then on this one, we just see the tail end of it. On this one, we don't see it. This one, we don't see it. This one, we don't see it. This one, we see just a little bit right here. And then this one, we see just here. Hopefully it's in the right place. And now we can see, oh, it jumps backwards. So on this one, we have to fix this. You know, it might work better if we just erase this one. All right, so you see what I'm doing? So now I'm going to go up here to the core rough and let's put in a highlight that's like right here. And basically you want, I'm going to change this because you want different shapes. So go back to here and look for some shapes. See if you can pull off some aesthetics. So right now I'm going to draw the top of the highlight first and then see if I can get a different shape right there. All right, then this one is going to go away. This one, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. This one, we see it coming out just right here. This one, we're going to see it moving just a little bit. And then this one will be the catch-up drawing. And test these each as you're going around. So I've only spent maybe 40 minutes doing this, and you can kind of see I've got a lot of stuff working already, right? Everyone okay or following along? All right, so now I'm going to add another layer. And remember, we've only got 8 keys here. So I want on the layout, I'm going to draw projectiles. So I want these to be quick. I want them to be just kind of narrow. I don't want, we could do one that goes off the screen really quickly. We could do one that goes off the screen really quickly. And then it's just going to repeat itself. Don't do too many of those. We could actually do one that comes up into the camera. It might be interesting. And so on the, let's pick a, so that's on the layout layer. Let's use this layer 6 here, just to do the debris. So it's DEBRIS. And on this layer here, let us pick, and remember, you can do your timing here. So if you want to, it's gonna, this is the top position for those, and you can do your speeds if you want. But what's on the debris layer, let's just get, let's do one at a time. So let's just get this one here working. Let's get this on 2s. Let's add a drawing after. And it's going to move to about right here. Add a drawing after. It's going to move to about right here. It's going to slow down a little bit. Add a drawing after. So it's good to slow down just a little bit and then just break the laws of physics a little bit and perspective. It's going to come at us. Add a drawing after. It's going to hit right here. Add a drawing after. And it might bounce. And we got one more drawing to play with. And so this one, it could just be right there and disappear. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, that's fine. Everyone okay with that? All right, let's do the debris. Let's go to this key right here on the debris and have this one start right here. And then on the next drawing, it goes really far. We need to track it. So let's put it right here and make it a little bigger. And then here, it's going to be right here. And then this one, it's going to be right here. And that's the last one we'll see. All right, now let's go to this frame and start one here. This frame, it comes up. This frame, it comes up. This frame, it comes up here. And then watch what you're doing on your layout, because you want at least a couple more here. But as soon as you go back to drawing number 1, you won't see it. So just put it right here and then just go to the next one and it goes right here and maybe it disappears on this one. All right, so on this drawing right here, let's start one right here. So you can kind of see what I'm doing is we're working with the idea of cycling. We're working with the idea of starting each one of the debris things in a different position, each one of the clouds in a different position. So remember, now we got to jump back to the first frame and put the next one here, and then the next one here. And if you really thought about it, you could continue this cycling here as long as you want. All right, so that's just a few of the debris things. You've got tons of different things to think about. Core moving around the center, highlights on the core, clouds moving up here, debris moving. In this example here, there's no lightning, but there could be. You could introduce the idea of lightning. Tornado and lightning is a very common thing. All right, so what are we missing here? We're missing those little sparks there on the bottom. So let's do a sparks layer. And this is going to be really easy. You can just imagine this is just going to be like the bomb that we had just played. The bomb that we just animated. All right, so here I'm going to use, let's just use a hot red color. And we're going to pick this little dot right here is the stationary position on the bottom for the layout. And what we want to do is we just want some sparks. So we want just some, we can look at the little shapes there. They're white. And so we're just going to bring these little guys up here. We'll put it on 2s. Actually, for this one would be interesting if we just keep it on 1. So we'll have to do a total of 16 drawings here. All right, and remember that sparks go away. So on this, so now we're going to start over here, and we're going to draw another one coming up, and another one coming up, and animate that one, and that one. And you just do 2 of them at a time so you don't get confused. And then start on this one. You could use a different color if you want, but maybe you just do 1. So on this one, we're going to do this one. And it's just in the middle, just this one. And then add a drawing. And then it comes to here. And remember, sparks just disappear. They can just completely go away. They burn out. Whatever the thing is that's burning or exploding just burns out. You could do a little 5-point star if you want. You get away with it. Let's start another one right here. So right here, this one's coming up right there. Just do 1 at a time so you don't get confused of what's going on. This is on 1s now. And then this one goes away. Now we're going to start on this one. Let's do this one right here. Add a drawing right there. Let's do 1 more. Right there. Okay, go back a couple frames, start one right here. And that little tail thing can be extended for a few drawings, but let's just get this working first. Go back a couple drawings. Let's do 1 in the middle again. Back up a couple drawings. Let's put one right here. And you're going to need a bunch of these. So, and it's going to be much easier for you to, oh, I drew that on the wrong layer. All right, so just even going through these bits of sparks, you can see that you've gotten a whole bunch of stuff going already. You probably only need to do 3 or 4 more of these in order to get it to look pretty cool. And you can work cleanly so that you don't have to clean it up. I would recommend using Toon Boom so you can play with your colors just a lot more easily. So now I'm looking for, I want this position here. One of the things that I'm looking at is that if I do choose to have a little spindle thing on the very first frame, that's the indicator where the spark actually happens. And so like if I follow this one right here, I'm going to just go to the next frame and continue it just a little more. And on this one, I'm going to continue that one just a little more. And so I need a few more of those little tails in there just to pull off. And then remember too that you can now go through this frame by frame and then just put some random pixie dust in here. If you're working clean, you'd be able to work with just some random sparks that just like ignite for 1 frame, and that's all you've got. But so let's take a look at just how that looks and see what it looks like here. So you've got the idea. You can copy that one just exactly. You can see that some of that debris is moving really slowly. So in order to pull that off, you would have to, because ours are moving really fast, you would get this whole thing working and copy and paste it for 2 cycles, and then get one of those debris to move just half the speed, which would be kind of interesting. All right, so remember, this is what your tornado layout looks like. This is what you're going for. There's lots of other examples. You can use yellow, purple, pink, blue, green in there. But from our layout position here, let's go back to our layout. Let's bring this layout all the way up, and let's take the other layers down. Okay, so this is our layout. On your layout, just to remind yourself, what you may want to do is say, look at this example here and just see how much detail is in there. So on your layout, don't forget to do clouds that are in this position and borrow these shapes. You can see that they're kind of geometrical, that there's shapes on top of shapes. And the whole trick is following this key, especially with the clouds. So, you know, what I've done in my demo here is just limited it to a few there, but I think you're going to need some clouds here. And I'm drawing on the wrong layer. Hold on a second. I want to be on my layout layer. So I just screwed something up right there. Well, I might have to fix it. All right, so you're probably going to want clouds in here. You're going to want clouds in here. And now that I'm doing this, you can see that it would be impossible to animate this right from the layout. So what I would do is I would augment the layout and say, okay, I need this kind of cloud right here on this part of the layout. And just go ahead and put this one in here. And then animate it so that you don't lose track of it. You might want a cloud back here, but if you do all these clouds on the layout, it might be really hard to keep track of them. So with your color key, you know that you've got lots of stuff. You might even want a cloud up here in the layout. And so if you follow your key, that position is this number 15 position. So you're not going to see it for drawing 1 and drawing 3, but you might see the tail end of it over here on drawing 5. And it might be a little bigger than all the other ones. And then you'll see drawing 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, and catching up to itself on drawing 1. It's going to spend a little bit more time in the distance just because of the laws of perspective. Look at your layout. Look at your example here. There's lots of stuff that's happening in this area down here where now it's some like crazy, stupid yellow color. You might want clouds that are back here. And just do those one at a time so that might be drawing 11. And so you'll see drawing 13, but you won't see drawing 15 or 1 or 3. And maybe 5, it starts to come back in. So you see 5, 7, 9, 11, and then 13 again. And just do it one little bit at a time. You'll know it's working when you're looking at your layout and you can see that you've got lots of different clouds in different positions with different shapes. You've got lots of debris working. But the first thing is the core. I'm going to save this for the first time. This is just a tornado rough desktop. All right, so that's the key on how to get your tornado working. Oh, you know what? On this debris layer, let's talk about starting in this position right here and giving ourselves a debris that comes right up into camera. So let's take this one. Let's start our yellow debris right here. And then it comes up and gets bigger. And then comes up and gets bigger. And then a little bigger. And then the last frame, it just gets huge. And then that's all we see of it. All right, everyone got the idea how to do a tornado?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so on this core, on this, let me figure out where I am here. Hold on a second. That's my core. Oh, the cloud layer rough. So I can see that I need a whole bunch of clouds down here. Oops, I don't want to do that. I want, I'm going to need some clouds moving around on the bottom down here. In the past, what I've done is, let me give you a couple of hints. This is a really good example. This is a good example too here. Let me see if I can open this in a different frame. It won't let me do it. Now it's going backwards. Hold on a second. All right, I kind of lost it right there. So let's take a look at this one. You can kind of see again that these bit of clouds here are moving counterclockwise. These clouds in the top are moving clockwise. That's just the laws of perspective. So don't confuse yourself. You're always moving from the left to the right, to the left to the right. This one's interesting because some of those center clouds are actually moving up the core. So instead of following them straight around in perspective, they're moving upwards, which is kind of an interesting thing. Let's see if we can track one of those. So with a yellow-green kind of color on the cloud layer rough, let's just pick a position here. We could put it on our layup, but I don't think we need to, but let's just pick one that's moving from this position right here. Let's pick this position. All right, so this position here is going to have kind of a ribbon shape to it. Let's just start with this shape in the rough and go to the next drawing here. And remember, we're looking at our key in the corner of our eye. So it's going to move up. So not only is it moving around, but it's moving up. So let's get that same shape here. Go to the next keyframe. Now it's moving up and around the back of it. And just for continuity's sake, let's give a little bit of a tail so we can see it. We're not going to see this one. We might not see it here either, but let's just fake it a little bit so we can see it's starting over here. And then this one is going to come up. Again, I'm following the same timing over here. And then, oh, I didn't want to do it. How did it switch to? That's weird. All right, hold on a second. Right here, right here. Pencil, yeah, that was weird. Oh, I see. I didn't draw that. That's just the next frame. So this one, it's moving up. Let's just draw it right here on our rough anyway, so we can see it. And then on the next drawing, we won't see it, but remember it was here. So let's draw the tail going around. And then on this one, we're not going to see it. On this one, we might be able to fake it, but let's go to this one here and then draw that same kind of ribbon shape coming around. And then here we'll draw it coming up. And on this one, it's coming up. And this one, it's coming up and going around. And we might see the tail end of it. All right, so let's see if that one wraps around and goes up. All right, it's interrupted by that debris that came close to us. But that's the idea of how to get a ribbon going up. So if this thing is really disturbing to you, you can take that debris and this, especially this one, and kill it. I think that on the debris layer, you don't want to do a transparency on it. But for this one, you might decide to kill it. just so that, well, let's see what happens if we kill it. So it does, now you can see the little ribbon going up a little easier. But on our example, we see it moving upwards because it's moving more slowly. So you would see this more easily if it was on completely on 2s. And cycling for 32 drawings instead of 16. You know, this could be crazy beautiful, but you can just imagine now that instead of these ribbon shapes just moving around, now you've got shapes that are moving that are more like this. So let me go to the layout and give you some other options. So on this example here, you've got like, it's almost like plasma. Actually, I'm going to do this on the layout 2 layer so we can kill it if we need to. So on this one, instead of these clouds just following the rules of perspective, these clouds are kind of looking like this. They're moving more like blades. And you can see that just in this example. So that would be this left one and this right one. We could try it. We could turn this layout, or we could just try this ribbon thing here. I'm not convinced it's going to be the best thing, but let's just try it. So let's just copy this. So this is kind of like a blade that's coming around. And I'm just going to draw a couple of lines. We'll keep it on 2s. Following the same kind of timing. And this next one, I'm going to keep the spacing of it really close to emulate something moving in perspective. And this one too. So now it's moving around the back side of it. And now it'll move to this position. But it's also going to change its shape here. It's going to be a little straighter. This one, we're not going to see it. It'll just be straight behind it. On this drawing here, we might see it coming over here. And it's probably not enough. So on this one, we might want to cheat and put 2 shapes like this. And let's see what that looks like. You know, it's interesting. So when you're using an example like this, you could certainly pull off all kinds of cool shapes in there. That one's got a lot of sparks, a lot of debris right there. So just keep that in mind. If you're using an example like that, you're going to be giving yourself quite a bit of work to do. So I want to do one more thing, and that is that, where's my mouse? Okay, so on my layout layer right here, let's stop the playback. Oh. All right, on this layout layer, I want to remind everyone that in these examples, in all of the examples here, they're really kind of game oriented. And so they're not only are they cycling, but they're kind of easy to do. There's not a lot of narrative happening in terms of what is actually being obliterated. And so let's just talk about this for just a moment. And that would be, like, let's take a look at this guy right here. You know, so this is what I'm talking about. It's just atmospheric. It's clouds with different colors in it. It's moving really cool. Some of the debris that's moving around this core here looks like it's just singular shapes. There's also stuff falling down from the top, which is kind of interesting, right? You see that in that one right there? But there's still no narrative. We don't know where this is. So in our example here and in the past, what I've done on this debris layer here is instead of just making these guys rocks, you know, make it like, let's just start one right here that's a piece of wood. So let's just draw this one. And it's gonna, and we don't have the arc here, so let's just make sure that we are following our arc. And we're gonna get that piece of wood to tumble as well. So that's just a piece of wood. And it's coming out, it's going on the other arc that we can see, but it's tumbling. This is a rough layer. We can certainly just clean it up later if we want. All right, so there I've just added a 2x4 or a piece of wood, which makes sense, right? All right, the other part that we can talk about here is, you know, a cow. So the tornado picked up a cow, and the cow is going to go over this way. So you draw the head, the body, the legs, the horns. Just keep it simple, graphic. And you could do the same thing here. So, and you're just roughing it in. So just do the head, the body, the legs, the horns. And it's tumbling as well. Head, body, legs, horns. Head, body, horns. You go back in and fix it. All right. In this example here, I don't think you need stuff tumbling down from the upper part like we saw in that one off to the right there. It's kind of cool. It's up to you. You can see that there's a cone shape to the clouds as it's going up, and those cones aren't moving, or if they are moving, they're moving very slowly. So that's procedural. That's probably done in Unity. So that's the basic setup for your tornado. It's pretty doable. Just because there's so many clouds, it's just going to take you a while. And again, I think that I like that blue example better than any of them. This one's pretty cool itself. This is a nice little illustration here of someone just doing their take on the Wizard of Oz. And so you can see that instead of a piece of cloud or ribbon of cloud that's going around, well, there's a cow right there, and there's the house. So you could draw a house swirling around the volcano or the tornado itself. It's up to you. You can, your animators in the class, you can certainly put a little narrative in there and have fun with it. You can see the cone shape here is veering off to the left, which is interesting. And so your perspective is skewed a little bit. All right, everyone's got the idea? And you should have a sketch that's guiding you through this tornado anyway, but that's the basic timing. So this one's interesting. This one is like internet connection here is not that good. This one's interesting because there's not a lot of stuff moving. I mean, you can kind of just feel it. I'm not sure that this is a photograph or if someone's just working really well in Photoshop, but there's lots of lightning happening at the top. And it's very dark and ominous. Ominous. All right. Do I have any questions from the gallery here? All right, I think that I did that well enough. So fix your volcano, touch it up, look at your illustration, look at your composition, look at your rules of art. We talked ad nauseum about atmospheric perspective and perspective, how they change, colors, detail. Anything that's up towards the camera in the foreground should have more detail. Anything that's away from us is out of focus and has less detail. And so get that volcano thing working so that it's presentable, so that there's only maybe a couple of adjustments, and get your tornado going. Next week, I will add in the fire and the water splash so that you can put those in your tornado project. You know, at that point, you might choose to just do the water as a standalone animation by itself. But the fire is kind of screaming to be in the tornado or in the volcano. This is the week where I can totally confuse you about tornado, volcano, tornado, volcano. It's my job. It's written into my contract that I'm supposed to confuse you in week 9. So you know what you're doing. Get the next step done with your volcano. Get your tornado working. Get it laid out. I'll put a thing in the module for you. Next week we will do fire and water. And then you should also be thinking about what you want to do for your final. Make sure that you've got sketches going, that you know it's a chemistry lab is the go-to, the good example, but you can do anything you would like. But remember that the elements for that final have to be an orb, glass breaking, plasma. Just those 3 things will be new for your final. And then you can add in all kinds of other stuff like smoke and steam and candle smoke and fires and all kinds of stuff. So that's your final. All right. End it a little early. I'll get you guys into your weekend 6 minutes early. Questions, comments, complaints, conundrums, criticisms? Everyone okay? Okay. I will see you at 9 o'clock next week. Again, I'm sorry about Toon Boom and I'm sorry about Zoom. I'm going to try to fix Toon Boom right now. We'll see you all next week. Okay, ciao.
Take care.